And in the meantime, okay, let's get that recorded. In the meantime, everyone drop in the chat, have you used Figma before? Why do you think that design is important? And what is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Recording in progress.
Okay. Hi to everyone who just came in. Drop your answers to those questions in the chat. We'll be starting in 2 minutes. Okay, guys, hello to the intro to Figma workshop. Before I hand it off to Anna Boyer, who is our workshop lead, I will be going over some rules, code of conduct, stuff like that. So please keep your mic muted at all times and don't interrupt our speaker when they're presenting. You can feel free to ask questions in the chat and we will get it to Anna. And don't annotate. That is really disrespectful. But in general, enjoy the workshop and please be respectful. I'll hand it off to Anna now.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm super excited to lead this workshop of Intro to Figma with you guys. Let me share my screen real quick. Actually, I also need to drop a link to the file in the chat. Hopefully, while I'm kind of going through the intro part, if you guys don't already have it, maybe just quickly create a Figma account, because if you're able to download this file, you'll be able to just reference later the slides that I'm sharing and the resources I'm sharing as well. But then also at the end, I want to kind of do a bit of like a exercise with you guys just to apply some of the things that we are learning and the stuff that I'm demoing during the workshop. So let me start sharing my screen. Let's go here. Can everyone see this okay? Right, I'm assuming that's a yes. Okay. Yeah, so this will be a quick introduction to Figma. Just a little overview of the agenda. I'm going to talk a bit about what is Figma, then we're going to dive into a FigJam activity. Then we'll talk a bit more about just like how to design in Figma, what are some of the basic features that you can use in there as you're building out your designs. Then we'll go into that Figma activity. And then the last 10 minutes, I'm going to dedicate to a Q&A. So maybe like hold off typing in your questions to the chat until the end so that they don't get lost in it. And then I can kind of go look through it and try and like walk through and answer as many questions as I can. A little bit about myself. So I'm a designer advocate at Figma. In my past life, I was a product designer at a tech startup, and I love dim sum, corgis, and squirrel watching. During COVID, I bought a squirrel bench, and so I spent a lot of my time while I was doing design work just watching the squirrels eating the food. And this is a picture of a baby squirrel who loved visiting the bench every day. Okay, so a bit about Figma. So we have Figma and FigJam. The main, I guess, goals that Figma has is to make design accessible to as many people as possible. Figma is based in the cloud and it's browser-based, meaning that you can do design in the browser or you can download the web app and design within there. But what's really nice about it is that whenever you want to collaborate with other people, maybe you're sharing your designs or you built out a prototype, it's really easy to share with other people when it's browser-based because you can just copy a link and then send it to whomever you want to see it. Something else that's really nice about it being browser-based is that if something ever happens to your computer, like maybe it like dies or you have to use a friend's computer, as long as you have access to your account, so if you have your email and your password, you're able to access your designs from anywhere. So it doesn't have to be specific to your device. And you also don't have to keep all of your designs downloaded to your own computer. It's all living within your account in Figma. Moving on. So yeah, there's a bunch of companies that use Figma and FigJam. We're going to start off with a FigJam activity, which will basically be showing like how you can use this. FigJam is essentially our new whiteboarding tool. And the purpose of that is to kind of help with all of the more cross-functional collaboration that you'll be doing in your design process. So when you want to do any kind of brainstorm sessions, if you want to diagram or like map out the design you're building. So if you have an app, you want to kind of map out, okay, what are all the different screens and features that it has? FigJam is really good for that. It's also really good for any kinds of like design reviews. So if you're sharing your designs with other people, because FigJam is very collaboration focused, it makes it a lot easier for people to be able to leave in comments, put in like post-it notes. They can add like reactions and stickers, which we'll be seeing later as I'm kind of demoing FigJam. And instead of having to, dive into the design file and kind of go through all the layers to find the specific designs. So yeah, with that being said, let's go into showing a little bit more about Figma. So Figma is where you're actually going to be doing like most of your design work. There's a lot of features. So you have all of the sort of editor design capabilities. You'd want to build out high fidelity and low fidelity screens. And also there's prototyping capabilities as well. So here's just some examples of different prototypes. Like this one's a map that you can pan around. Here's some different carousels that you can see here. So a lot of what's really nice about Figma as well is it consolidates a lot of different tools that people generally have to use. Oftentimes you'll see companies, before Figma came around, they would have one tool for design, one tool for prototyping, and another tool for handoff. But Figma kind of combines all those different things. So it's really nice in that you're able to keep everything in one place. You can design in the same place, create prototypes using those designs instead of having to upload them somewhere else. And then also you're able to easily share and collaborate with other people within the tool. People have also found some really cool use cases for Figma. So some people have made some really cool like illustration work in Figma as well. We're always finding different ways that people are hacking the tool. So it's not just for interaction design. You can use it for illustration work as well. A lot of people use the prototyping capabilities for like motion design work. And then also a lot of times before we brought in FigJam, people even used it for things like brainstorming and any kind of like whiteboarding activities. All right, so I'm going to copy a link to this FigJam file. If you guys haven't had a chance yet to create a Figma account, that's totally okay. You can just kind of like follow along and watch. Let me paste the link into the Zoom chat just so that you guys can easily find it. Yeah. And then you guys can just pop into the file whenever you're ready. But I'm going to just show a little bit about FigJam. So FigJam is a great place to kick off your design projects just because it's very collaboration focused. And oftentimes, before you actually dive into creating designs, you're going to want to brainstorm, you know, what is the problem you're trying to solve for? What are all the different ideas that your team has? Maybe you want to diagram out what is the information architecture of any kind of app or website that you're building. And so FigJam is a really great place to start that off with. Some different features we have. So you can bring in stickies. This is a great way of just sharing any kind of feedback that you have. You can customize things like the color. There's certain things about the text you can do. You can insert links. So maybe if you wanted to link out to your Figma designs, you can use this link feature to do that. And then also there's like authorship. So you can show or hide if you have an idea. Normally when people are doing any kinds of like brainstorm and feedback sessions, it's really great to use sticky notes for that because you can kind of like stack your different sticky notes on other ideas. Maybe if someone had an idea that you want to add on to, yeah, and it's just like really useful for those kinds of activities. Another part of FigJam is diagramming. So basically how you do that is in the bottom toolbar here, you have shapes, and then here you can customize which kind of shape you want to use. And then we also have this little plus button. It'll appear to the top, bottom, or sides, and you can just use that to continue adding on different shapes to your diagram. You can even drag it out if you want to kind of place it somewhere else, or you can just draw out shapes initially and kind of just link out connections between them this way. So this is really useful for if you want to do any kind of like user journey mapping, information architecture, if you want to show what the user flow is going to be as people navigate through your app. And yeah, it's really easy to do in FigJam. You can also customize things like what is the style of the connections between the different points. You can change the color and the shape of the different shapes as well as, and in addition, the different, if you want to add like a border or something like that, you can do it too. Okay. Another thing that we recently added in FigJam is using the cursor chat. And so the cursor chat is really great for if you wanted to just like have a quick note, maybe someone is presenting their different ideas and instead of trying to maybe like interrupt them by speaking, because I know it's really hard now that everything is pretty much virtual. So this is a great place to say like, oh, like that's a great idea, or something like that, just to kind of show that, oh, I think like this is cool, and without being too intrusive to the person that's presenting. And it's really easy. You just click slash, and then after a certain period of time, it'll just kind of like slowly fade away.
Anna,
Mm-hmm.
sorry to interrupt, but people in the chat are saying that the link that you sent is not working.
Oh, sorry. I need to change the permission to anyone with the link. Okay, can you guys try that now and see if it works? Okay, great. Cool. Yeah, so you guys can try all of these along as I'm kind of like just going through and demoing. So yeah, to activate the chat, you just hit the slash button, // and then you can just type whatever you want. Great. I'm glad this is working. Sorry I didn't change it. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have anyone going in and changing the file before I started the workshop. So thank you for pointing that out. Another thing that you can do when someone is sharing their ideas is you can emote, which means you can essentially react to what they're saying. So by doing that, you just click E and then you'll see this wheel appear. This is specifically for stamps. So if you really like an idea that a person has, you can use the stamps to like heart it or react to it. People oftentimes use it for voting. So if you do a brainstorm where people have a bunch of different ideas, you can use your stamps to vote on different ideas that you like, using either like the +1, the like, the heart, or your face. And then also for doing emotes, you just click on the other part of the wheel and then you just select which one. And then when you press down on your mouse, the emotes will basically follow along. And that's another really great way to just react to people's different ideas and stuff as they're presenting. And I think it just makes it a lot more fun. Moving on, in FigJam, we also have stickers. So there's a bunch of awesome stickers that people from our community have created for FigJam. To access those, you just go to the component section, and then you can see all these different really cool sticker packs that people have. This is another great way of just kind of like annotating different ideas and reacting to them. Or if you have any kind of like user flow that you're sharing with other people, maybe you want to like use this to indicate a certain part of the flow where you want people to provide feedback on. And it just makes it a lot of fun. And in addition, you can create your own components in Figma and bring them into FigJam. You don't have to only use the ones that are provided automatically in that components tab. So what you can do is you can basically hit this plus button, and that basically allows you to browse through all your different libraries, and then you click this button to add. So you can create your own customized components if you want to. For example, someone on my team created this agenda clipboard. And so that was really useful for when we do like our weekly warm up where we're talking about what we're all doing for the week, what kinds of next steps we have. It's really useful because it can help you create like a almost customized template of how people are going to be interacting within FigJam. Okay. And then when you're going from Figma to FigJam for any kind of brainstorming or design crit, you can actually pull in designs from Figma into FigJam just by copying and pasting. So let me go into like this Figma file. I can just Control C, and then the zoom toolbar is blocking me from seeing my tabs. Okay. And then just paste it in. And people can like look at the designs. They can't edit it within FigJam, but you can do things like edit the text. So this is really great if you want to do any kinds of like copy revisions, like maybe it's just like the text you want to focus on changing, you can still update that. In addition, you can bring things from FigJam into Figma. So for example, if you created like a diagram within FigJam that's illustrating like this is, you know, all of the different screens for an app that I want to design, and here's how all of the interactions between them, you can copy it and then you can just paste it into Figma and you can already see that diagram. And you can also like still move things around and all of the connections are still going to remain connected to the shapes that you drew. So yeah, that's just like a quick overview of all the different features within FigJam. I see you guys also discover the drawing capabilities. That's also a lot of fun to be able to draw any kinds of illustrations that you want to. Yeah, in addition to just like stickers and reactions, things like that. So just for like a really quick FigJam exercise, I want you guys to use the emote wheel to stamp where in the world you want to travel next. So for example, for me, I've never been to France before, so I would love to go there. Also careful, I think someone is moving the map around. Let me lock that so we don't accidentally move it. Cool. But yeah, FigJam's a lot of fun. It's a great place to do, can't find the stamp wheel. So you just hit E and it should pop up on your computer. Yeah, and then you can switch between reactions or stamping, whatever you want. Oh, a lot of people want to go to Australia. I also have never been there, so that'd be a lot of fun. Alrighty, I'm gonna look in the chat, see if anyone has any questions. All right, cool. So now that we've learned a bit about how to start off your project with whiteboarding in FigJam, I'm gonna move into Figma. So let me repaste the link to the community file. It's basically just gonna have all of the slides that I'm sharing right now, in addition to the activity that we're gonna do. It's also just a great place to reference back if you wanted to look at any of the tips that I shared today. Wait, let me send to everyone. Okay. Yeah, so if you get a chance, definitely download it. Let's dive into Figma. So we talked a bit about FigJam as a place to start off your projects, but another great place to start as well is with Figma Community. So you can access that by, when you go into Figma, you can go into, let's see here, plugins. I can browse the plugins and community. It's just figma.com/community, and it'll take you here. And there's basically a bunch of different plugins people created. Plugins are tools that other people have created that can help you with Figma. So some of my favorite plugins include Unsplash, that lets you take in stock images and pull them into your designs. So that's really useful so that you don't have to spend a lot of time searching for images if you need them in your designs. There's also icon packs that you can use if you don't want to create your own. There's a lorem ipsum generator if you have any text that you need populated. There's just a lot of different really cool tools out there that people have built based on different needs that people have that maybe Figma doesn't have a specific feature for. So this is a really great place to look at if you have any needs for like images, icons, stuff like that. And then also within Figma community, there's a lot of different files, a lot of different independent people, they'll create different templates for files. So maybe you wanted to find like a design system file. Shopify is a really great example of some like ways of structuring and building out design systems, but you'll also see just other design projects that people have created. And it's a really great place to reference if you need any kind of like inspiration or if you just need a starting point for your projects. Going into the specifics of how to use Figma. So if you look in the top left-hand corner, this is where all of the main design tools are. This is how you're going to start actually building out your designs. So everything within Figma is organized based on frames. This is essentially the equivalent to artboards and other design tools. So to do that, you just hit, you can either click this button or hit F, and you'll see this right-hand side has changed and showing you all these different preset sizes that you can select. So this is based on like different devices you can choose, whether it's a tablet, a computer, or phone. Here's all the different shapes that you can draw from. So you have rectangles, circles, polygons, stars, things like that. If you need to make any kinds of more complex shapes, you can use the pen tool for drawing things out. And then this is where you'll be pulling in your text. You can hit T to create a text box and enter in anything you want to. And then this hand here, this is how you can just kind of span around your design file if you want to. And yeah, so if you guys want to download this file, it just has all of these different things that show all the different features. Within your design file, you have what are called pages. It's basically another way of organizing your design. So you might want to create a separate page for wireframes, maybe another one for the high fidelity design, and then maybe another one that has the actual prototype that you'll be using. And then as you're doing your designs, basically, yeah, you start with frames, you're creating your shapes, going into using your color. So when you're doing your designs, you can access your colors by, you just draw a shape or a frame, and then you have all these properties here that you can apply to this. So if I want to apply a fill, I can just choose from any of the colors here and select which one I want. This is where you're going to add a stroke to your frame or shape, and you can change the border and the color of that as well. Effects are where you're going to add things like a drop shadow or inside shadow. And then you can also apply things like auto layout, which I'm going to touch on in a little bit, but it's a little bit more of an advanced concept. So that's some things to know about color. Let's talk a bit about some of the little more advanced things. So you can use your frames and shapes to kind of like create your designs, draw them out. Now going into constraints, constraints are how you're going to customize the way that elements within your design are going to be resizing. So in this example here, I have these two shapes. This one is set the constraint to the hugging the right and bottom, meaning that when I resize this outer frame, this triangle is going to stay stationary because it's saying I'm going to retain the same distance from the bottom right corner. On the other hand, this triangle, I've set it to right bottom. So as it stretches out, it's going to move along with the bottom right corner. You can also bring images in. So when you draw any kinds of shapes or frames, you can fill it with a color if you wanted to, but you can also apply images as fills as well. All you have to do is you just go to File, Place Image, and then whichever shape or frame that you have selected, it'll automatically fill it with whichever image you chose from your laptop. Or if you're using a plugin such as Unsplash, it'll let you fill any kind of shape or frame with a picture that you chose from there. For images as well, you can also edit different things about them. So when you click on it, you can see the fill is this image here. And then there's a lot of different things that you can change about it. So like exposure, contrast, saturation, things like that. You can also customize like how you crop it. So maybe you want to adjust that a bit. There's a lot of things you can do in terms of editing your images within Figma. And because images are kind of grouped the same as colors, meaning that they can be used to fill frames or shapes, you can also apply those in here as well. So here I could apply an image. So I've actually saved a couple of plant pictures as images, and I just select it from here. And you can see even for something like text, because it has a color fill, I can also instead use an image to fill the text. And it's almost like a masking effect. Okay, one other trick to designing a little bit faster is we have something called Smart Select. So whenever you have, maybe you have some different elements and you want to make sure that they're spaced evenly, or you want to adjust the spacing between them, if it's like a carousel or a grid or a list, what you can do is, so maybe I want to like move this over a little bit. You select all of the elements that you want, and then you go up here, and then this is where you can actually like edit the vertical spacing or the horizontal spacing. So you can do it from that right panel, or you can do it from here. Basically what'll happen is, because it kind of like recognizes that these all are evenly spaced, then it's going to have these little pink bars show up between them. And this is how you can adjust the spacing, or you can do it from this side here. And that's just a way to kind of like really quickly tidy up any kinds of like lists that you have and adjust the spacing between them without actually having to use auto layout, which I'll explain in a little bit. Okay, another step to moving faster is we have a bunch of things that you can reference in the Help and Resources Center. So we have like keyboard shortcuts. This will pull up all the different shortcuts if you want to use those to try and design faster, and to just help you learn a bit more about how to use those shortcuts when you're doing things like adding text or frames or color and things like that. We also have links out to the Help Center and Support Forum. Help Center has a lot of really useful documentation, so it's a great resource to go to. The Support Forum is where you go if you have any kinds of questions that you need answered. Generally, we'll have people just in the Figma community answering them, but then also people on my team, the designer advocates, we're continuously in the forum answering questions. And also oftentimes you'll probably find that someone has asked or had a similar problem to you. So it's a really great place to go if you're having any kinds of like difficulties at all. And then this also links out to our YouTube. So we have a lot of different, I guess, playlists that we have. We have like a beginner's one if you kind of want to go through and just like quickly refresh what are all the different features in Figma. But there's also more advanced tutorials as well. If you want to dive into topics like prototyping or auto layout, learning more about those, our YouTube channel is a really great resource. Okay, so we've kind of talked a bit more about like just basic editing now and building out your designs. I want to touch a bit talking about collaboration. So when you're working with your team, we have multiplayer, which means you can have multiple people in the same file at the same time. You saw that when we were in the FigJam file, you could see other people's cursors. And what's useful about that is that you can easily see what other people on your team are working on. You can work together virtually. And also, if someone is presenting their designs, instead of having to use something like Zoom or another conferencing tool to share their screen, if you're in the same Figma file, you'll have everyone's faces in the top right corner here. If you click on a person's face, you can automatically follow them through the file, and it's actually a lot faster and a lot higher resolution than if you try to share your designs through a Zoom screen. Some other things that you can do with collaboration is you can use your commenting. So you just click here and then you can just select whichever design that you want to comment on. Maybe you're like, you need to update like the brand colors here, and you can post it. And then it'll all show up on the right-hand side here. You can also respond to people's comments. So if someone commented on one of your designs and then maybe you have something like, okay, just updated, like, could you take a look again? They can see that. And then maybe once you've completed all of the updates that you needed or you fixed all the changes, you can go ahead and mark it as, click here. You can mark it as resolved, and then that'll just kind of hide it, but you can go back and revisit them by selecting to show all of the resolved comments. Another thing with commenting is that you can directly tag people. So far I just have myself on this team, but if you have a file that you're sharing with other people, then you'll be able to tag them if there's like any kinds of specific changes that you want that person to know about, or any specific like feedback on designs. In terms of also with collaborating other people, let me go out of the comment mode. We also have the inspect panel. So that's really useful for if you're working with other people and you want to start building your designs, you can change whether it's iOS, CSS, or Android. And then whenever you click into any of like the different layers of the design, you can inspect that specific thing. Also with prototyping, you can do it as well. So for example, maybe in here, I'm going to just go ahead and quickly draw a prototype link from one screen to another. When you inspect, you can actually see, let's see, the interaction within that. Yeah. As it shows up here, it's showing that for the button, the interaction is on click and then you're navigating to the next screen. So the inspect panel is really useful for kind of just giving the developer all of like the different colors and the styling that's being used in the designs. So it really helps with like in terms of building out the designs. And then, yeah, it just like helps a lot with that initial handoff process, or if you're going to start building out your designs, it just helps you see all the specs for all the different elements, like what kind of padding, spacing, what typeface you're using, things like that. All right, so yeah, we kind of touched on all of the design basics. I'm gonna pause real quick and see if there's any questions you guys want to throw in the chat on anything I covered so far. I know it's a lot, but I'm just trying to show as many things as possible so you guys can get started really quickly. Also, you can shout out if you have any questions too. Alrighty, so next I want to do a quick exercise. But before that, I just want to talk briefly about components. So we've talked about, how to kind of use frames and shapes in the pen tool to build out your designs. We've talked a bit about the collaboration aspect of Figma. And then something else that I think is really useful for if you just want to design really quickly, components are really useful for that, and styles. And the reason why is just because if you're creating any kinds of designs in your screens, and you most likely are going to have a lot of elements that'll be repeating, you'll have maybe the same header and body text, you'll use the same buttons and input fields. Instead of having to always just copy and paste it across different screens, you can create them as components. And if you've ever used any other design tools like Sketch, it's equivalent to symbols. Basically, components are elements that are intended for reuse. So what you can do is, maybe if I want to create a button component, I'm going to make a frame. I'm just going to add a quick fill to it, and then I'm going to add some text. And then now that I have kind of all the elements for my button, I can just select the whole thing, and then I click this icon here at the top, and it'll basically create a button. And then what that means is that I can use instances of this button. And why that saves you time is maybe first you're just kind of starting things off low fidelity. You're kind of just placing things, saying I want images to go here, I want text to go here, I want buttons to go here. Once you start going into more high fidelity, when you create things as buttons, it makes it a lot faster to update your design. So if I were to say, okay, now I want to actually really figure out the styling of my button, maybe I want to add a corner radius to this, and maybe I want to change the color to a blue. It automatically updates all of the instances, and so it makes it really fast because now you don't have to go back through all of your designs and kind of click through every single thing you want to update. It'll already do that because you started out by building this component and you used that component across all your different designs. Yeah, and then where you can access all of your components is they'll pop up in the assets panel here. So this is showing where all of my different components live that I created inside of this file, and I can easily just pull them in to create a screen. Another thing with components to note is we have a thing called Variance. So before Variance existed, you used to have a different component for every single variation of one. So in this example here, we have different types of buttons. You have a primary, secondary, and an alert button. And then you also have all the different states like the default, hover, on click, disabled, things like that. And so this used to be represented as 12 components that you had to choose from in this dropdown. But because we turn them into variants, and what you do is you just select all of them. Let me actually do that really quickly with this one. So maybe I want to create this as a component. You just select all of the components and then you hit combine as variants. And yeah, it'll basically turn them into variants. And this is mostly used for if you have different types and states of the same kind of component. And not only does it kind of just condense all of these into a singular one, so it makes it a lot easier to search through your components on the left side panel, but also it makes it easier to select which type you want to use. So I'm pulling in this button, and then I can use these drop downs to customize like which specific type that I want to use. So yeah, maybe I want it to be secondary. I can change the different states. This is like the hover state for secondary. Yeah, it just makes it a lot easier to like pull in your components that you need and then change it to the specific type and state that you want. So that's components. And then in terms of styles, that just makes it a lot easier to be able to have all of your colors and text consistent. And so how you create a style is maybe I'll just fill this frame here with this red color. And then what you do is you click this button here. This is where you can see all of your fill styles. And then I just click the plus button and I just title it something like red. And then it automatically adds it in. I can see that it's a style now, and then it's also listed here. Same thing goes for text. If I have text styles that I'm using consistently across my design, then it makes it really easy to be able to pull it in because I can just have like, this is like header 1. I can easily change it into different styles and not have to, I have to highlight it and not have to kind of like manually do this consistently. Or if you ever need to like change like the font that you're using or things like that, all you have to do is update the styles, and then it updates all the designs where you apply that style to. So it makes it a lot faster. I think for hackathon, I probably wouldn't build out an entire design system, but anything where you think you're going to be reusing it a lot, or there's potential that you're going to want to like change any of the styling, I highly recommend that you create styles and you create components. Okay, so we don't have a ton of time. I want to do a quick exercise though, but maybe you guys can do it in your own time because this document is available on Figma community. But basically, I just kind of want to apply the things that we learned about earlier, where rebuilding these screens. I think we don't have a ton of time to touch on it, so I'll just show you how to build one of them. So let's do the home screen. I'm going to hit F to create a frame. I'm going to choose iPhone 11. And then to rebuild what's in the screen, because all of the elements are components, I can just pull them in. So I have this top of the phone. I'm going to pull into my frame. I have some text, so I'm going to create some text, and I'm going to make it header 2, and it's going to say bestsellers. And you just apply the same process. You like drag in all of the cards that you need, Command D to duplicate. Also for the cards here, I've applied auto layout, and the reason why is because it makes it a lot easier to ensure that you have consistent spacing between your elements. Also, if you ever want to make changes to your design, if you apply auto layout, you don't have to like redo the spacing and manually resize. So in this example here, I have auto layout applied to this frame, and it's set to vertical. So what this means is that whenever I add anything else to this frame, it's going to responsively grow to encompass that new, anything new, any additional cards I'm adding to it. So if I do Command D, it's duplicating this row, it's adding it below the 2 existing rows that I had, and it's keeping the spacing consistent between them. I also have auto layout applied to the overarching frame. So if I remove a row from the bestsellers list, the new arrivals is pushed up to keep that consistent spacing. And so I don't have to like constantly reshuffle everything to fill in the white space or move things down when I'm adding additional content. So auto layout is super useful for that. And it also helps you save time when you're doing your design work. Yeah, so I'm pulling in these cards. I'm going to apply auto layout to this row in case if I ever want to add like another card element, I can do that. I'm going to duplicate this, and then I'm going to create a frame so I can select auto layout and keep those evenly consistent. And then I'm going to take the header and the cards below it. I'm going to make another frame out of that because I want to group these together. And I also want the same kind of format to apply to the new arrivals. And then I'll duplicate it and bring it down here. And then I take these two, I frame them again because I want to apply auto layout to them to have consistent spacing. For the bottom navigation, I can just drag it in here and move it to the bottom. And yeah, that's basically it, how to recreate the screen, just pulling in these components, applying the auto layout. And yeah, that's it for recreating the screen. I wish we had a bit more time for this, but I want to quickly go into prototyping. So for prototyping, basically what you do is you select this tab here on the right-hand side. And so how you add a link is, let me just remove this one. You select any of the elements and you see this dot up here. This is where you're going to draw the connection. So from the sign up screen, I'm going to click, when you have people click on this button, I want to take them to the home screen. So I'm going to have this, I'm going to link it out to this screen, and then you can customize the interaction details, whether it's when you're hovering, clicking, whatever is going to set off that interaction. And then also you can customize what kind of transition, if things are going to be sliding in, if it's just going to immediately change, if there's going to be smart animate. Smart animate, basically, it takes whatever layers are the same between the frame that you're originally at and the one you're transitioning to, and it's going to recognize which elements are the same and have them change based on what that transition is. But for this case, I think I just want it to slide in and I want it to be on click. And then you can also customize things like, you know, what's like the speed of the transition, how long does it take, what's like the Bezier for that, things like that. And then maybe I want this modal to come in. So I'm going to click on this modal, I'm going to add an interaction, and then I'm going to say it's going to happen after a delay, and then it's going to be an open overlay. Actually, I think I have to click on this one. Let's see. After delay, open overlay, this one. No, I think that's fine, actually. Okay. Open overlay onto the home, and I want the placement. You can have it be default center, top, left, bottom. You can also set it for manual. So it's going to show how it's going to appear. I actually have it linked backwards. So let me switch that up. Delete this one. After delay, open overlay, and then I want the modal to come in. Cool. So this is where you can click to view a prototype. So you can see here, I click this button, it slides this in, and then after delay, this modal pops up. And then you can do things a little more custom. So maybe I don't want this modal to pop up immediately. I can adjust how long of a delay I want it to pop up. And then also you can say whether or not you want to have that modal immediately close when you're clicking outside. You can add a background. So if you want any kind of like shadowing, so here it kind of like grayed out the background automatically, you can do that too. But yeah, those are just some of the basics for how to design in Figma and how to prototype and also collaboration. Yeah, I want to spend the last like 10 minutes for any kinds of questions you guys have. Someone asked, how did I create the bottom navigation? It might take some time, but basically I just made like a basic frame. And then I just brought in some like icons from an icon pack that I had. You can just like literally just drag it into this frame. And then I added like the corresponding text, and that was about it. So like can we use Figma to design and draw? Yes, you can. So I mean, you can use the different shapes to create things like icons. So maybe if I wanted to create like, let me get out of prototyping, go to design mode. Let's make this like blue. If I want to make like a house icon, I can use the different shapes to draw it out. And then, actually I want to use a rectangle, not a frame. And then I can combine these to create a house icon, and then I can just use it wherever I want. You can find icon packs in Figma community. So if you go into Figma community, you can search icons. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of files. People have material design, they have their own custom icons that they built. All you have to do is just hit this download button, and it'll bring it in, and you can access all of those icons and just use it in whatever designs that you want to. Our pages link to each other. So pages are just a way to organize your designs, because a lot of times you might have different flows. Maybe you have like a checkout flow for mobile design or a sign up flow. Like that's a way that you can use pages to try and organize your designs. Or if you want to organize it based on like, this is my, work in progress, this is designs that are high fidelity, and then these are designs that are being built out. That's another way you can use pages. But when it comes to prototyping, you can't have a prototype span across different pages. You can only have a prototype living within the same page. With that being said, though, you can also have multiple prototyping flows. So here I have one flow, but I can make another prototyping flow. And then what happens is when I click the play button to see, I can switch between the two flows. In this case, they look identical because I duplicated the screen, but you can have multiple prototypes within the same page. Yeah, presenting a prototype, you just within your design file, wherever you are, whatever page and frame you have selected, when you hit play, it's going to navigate you there. When it opens up another tab for that prototype. And then to share it, you just hit share, and then you can have it where you can copy a link and just send it to somebody. They should be able to open it up. You can also customize people's viewership. So maybe you want someone to only be able to view, or someone should be able to like edit the actual designs. You can do that too. Another thing is that just like how in Figma designs, people can leave comments. If you send a prototype, they can also leave comments as well. And so that's really useful for like, if you're kind of testing out a flow and someone's like, oh, this transition like doesn't quite make sense, they can leave a comment in there. Okay, any other questions? I know I kind of covered a lot of material, but hopefully you guys are able to download the community file so you can kind of go back and kind of like refresh your memory and see all the details of how to use all the different features. But I think just like for the main takeaways, because I know like hackathons or projects are going to be really fast, I would say the biggest things is take advantage of community files, because it's a pain in the butt to spend a lot of time, pulling in your own images, your own text, your own icons, things like that. So it's really nice to have those stuff pre-made for you. And then also just like, yeah, creating components and styles for things that are going to be reused. So you don't have to go back through every single screen and make any updates if you choose to change the color or like the border radius and things like that. Is there an offline version of Figma? So for Figma, you can edit your designs offline. It's just what happens is, so it's, if for whatever reason you're disconnected from your Wi-Fi, if you have that file open like in your browser and the web app, you can still edit it. It's just that it won't push the updates until once you get back online. So if you're editing design and maybe someone else on your team is also editing, but they're online, you're not going to see what changes they're making until you get back online, if that makes sense. Are you allowed to ask me questions on Find a Mentor? I'm not listed as a mentor, but if you guys have any questions, let me just like type in, well, you can message me on Discord because I just created Discord. And then also you can email me. So I'll put in my email real quick. Or you can message me on Twitter. And also on Twitter, I post a lot of different Figma tips. So if there's like in the future, if you ever want to like learn more about how to level up your design skills in Figma, I post a lot of tips on there for things related to like just how to design faster and like how to better document your design work and things like that. Great. Well, I'm here for another 2 minutes if anyone has any other questions to ask. How did I create the logo? Like the Twigma logo, I did not personally create that, but it looks like it was used utilizing different like vectors and the pen tool. So for if you're building any kind of like complex shapes, we have sort of like the similar thing that you can do with Adobe. So here we have like you can unionize, subtract, intersect, or exclude. So that's like a way that you can build your icons yourself and your illustrations within Figma. People can do some really crazy things with like the pen tool where they will like draw out different layers and then they'll like change like the opacity and they'll use like blurs and shadows to kind of create interesting effects like this illustration here. This was 100% done in Figma. You guys should also follow him. He has a lot of really cool, just like illustrations that he's done in Figma, and you can download the file and actually see how, like, what are all the different layers and how he did it. He also has a talk from Config on YouTube where he goes step by step through how to create a curvy illustration in Figma. How do you create logos for your prototypes? You just create them in your design. So anything that's within your frames and is inside like where there's like links within a prototype, it should show up on when you hit play to preview your prototype. I'm guessing you might also be talking about thumbnails. So for your designs, you can create thumbnails for this file. I have the thumbnail set as the title page. All you do is you just have a frame with whatever design that you want, and then you right click and then you hit set as thumbnail. And basically, whenever you're browsing through all your files, this is what you'll be seeing like as the preview for that file that you have. Otherwise, it's going to show you kind of like a zoomed out view of like what all of your different frames are. Okay, I think that's time. But yeah, definitely please reach out if you have any questions. Also, definitely go to help or friends or form.figma.com because those have great resources and just a lot of like probably the same questions and problems that you'll come across people have already asked before. And yeah, thank you so much for all your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you everyone for coming to the workshop. We have 2 more workshops happening at 6 o'clock and you can find the links to those in our Discord. And thank you so much to Anna for hosting this workshop. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye everyone.